We are here. It is the penultimate day of the Cannes Lions Advertising Festival 2018. We are in our suitable Cannes bubble as we are at the front of the Teads yacht. I say yacht, it's almost the size of a ship, but you must bear with us in case we have interference from the Uber helicopter, because where else do you get an Uber helicopter apart from in Cannes? And also potentially the boat next door, who have a band. They are warming up ready for this evening's activities for the final night of crazy parties and events. But amongst all of that, we are here to have some serious discussion about collaboration, about partnerships, creativity and innovation. And to take us through that, we have a fine panel here who will enlighten us, educate us and inspire us. It is Coca from Teads, we've got Richard Brown in here from Gravity Industries, and we've got Doug Mail from the World Guinness Book of Records. So guys, I think I wanted to put some context around what we're discussing. The world has been full of wonderful partnerships and wonderful collaborations, from Lennon and McCartney to Richards and Jagger to Sheringham and Shearer for those of us that are England fans, out into Zico and Socrates for those of us that are old football fans. But one thing the media industry has been very guilty of until very recently is working in silos. And what we've noted is the companies that are successfully doing well in 2018 and beyond are those that have mastered the art of partnerships, collaboration, and combined that with innovation and creativity. And we know, we'll start with you, Doug. From a collaboration perspective, Guinness World Records has been working very hard with a number of brands recently, has been working with a number of innovators to really emphasise and amplify some wonderful things.
Well, I guess we're kind of fortunate really, since we diversified into the advertising industry about 10 years ago. We've kind of been built on collaboration and partnerships because of the role that we play within people's campaigns, other brands' campaigns. We have to partner to really kind of move forward, and I'm kind of fortunate enough to be sat next to someone that we partnered with very recently in November last year. And really partnerships to us and creative collaboration are the bedrock of our diversification from a heritage brand, from a publisher, into kind of a player, I guess, in the advertising and certainly PR world, and more so in the advertising industry as well.
And Richard, you obviously, Doug mentioned there that you've partnered up with Guinness Records, but an interesting career path for you. You've kind of gone from we were talking earlier, from the oil industry into creating gravity-defying kit, which is quite impressive. So, kind of, there must be, in terms of producing that, you've obviously got a partner, you've got to collaborate with a bunch of people. What are the key challenges you've found in that?
The lifeblood of everything we do really is genuine diversity of opinion. It would be a pretty special individual who by themselves could go and cover all the bases you'd need to go and grow a business like we've grown. I absolutely relish people coming from unusual backgrounds, industries that have got no rightful place at all in building an aeronautics innovation company, and coming to the table. And okay, maybe the first 4 out of 5 of their suggestions, ideas or thoughts are probably not very relevant. It's the 5th one I'm really interested in. That's where the gem resides in terms of an idea that then turns into something that no one's ever seen before. And actually, I think about my past, 16 years as an oil trader in the City of London. Actually, whilst that was maybe not quite the same as the sort of business I'm running now, a trading team typically had quite a diverse small collection of people who work intimately closely together, bringing a challenge and diversity of opinion in the same kind of way. And I think humans work best in small groups of people who are happy to challenge each other. That's where you get real freshness of thought.
And I think that's something that's coming out with you, Coca, in terms of you're marrying two things together that literally 4 years ago people said could never happen: creativity, data and innovation. How has that changed over the last kind of 3 years, and what are the results of such a collaboration?
Well, first thing, I would say that the reason why collaboration is so critical all over the world is that collective intelligence will always beat an individual silo organization. That's why any kind of brands right now needs to think as a platform, and the way we operate, even with talents, must be as a API. You must be ready to plug in any kind of talent from all over the world at any moment. I think that the creative industry struggle with that because maybe there's Sometimes we've got an obsession about the authority, who has the the authority of an ID, let's say. But what I realize, at least at Teads, I've been at Teads for the last 12 months, and basically internally we are collaborating with my team is based in basically all over the world. So we are completely decentralized. So I can work on a specific project with someone from Bucharest and a designer from New York and maybe a creative strategist from Mexico. And this diversity gives different point of view. It's really a rich process. And also with technology, the fact is innovation can happen at any moment from any kind of company all over the world. So as also inside Teads, we've been partnering with several companies. For example, we just launched an AR format, and it's a collaboration with a company based in UK called Deep AR. They were able to create an SDK that enable an AR solution in a browser without installing an app. So this is typically a project that was born through a partnership of two companies, actually.
And it's really interesting, a few points you make there in terms of who leads on a partnership, who looks after a partnership. What does, to the entire panel, and obviously not talk at once, but what does a successful partnership look like? How do you measure success of a partnership in today's world?
Yeah, it's interesting. First of all, a term that we use an awful lot at Guinness World Records is co-create, and we co-create the campaigns that we work on with our brands. Absolutely, it's a fully integrated process from client side as well as Guinness World Records side. What does success look like? I mean, of course, it will always depend on the type of partnership we're talking about, but I really feel that success when it comes to a partnership will always start from whether, not necessarily the objectives are the same, but certainly the values of the two brands are, if not the same, then aligned. And I certainly found that with Richard and Gravity last year.
I think you can measure the success of a partnership obviously in terms of the stated objective from the beginning. You obviously want to achieve that objective, but I think it's greater than that if the outcome, the lasting legacy of that collaboration is positive and both sides have come out of it feeling like they're richer for the experience. You can look back and realise it wasn't the most important thing wasn't the initial objective, it was building that foundation of a relationship. So we've collaborated with some of the biggest companies in the world in Gravity. I mean, we've had even people like GE reach out to us, and we've collaborated with them. And as long as we're really clear on what they're after from that collaboration, and it's aligned with what we want to go and do, and we're upfront about that at the beginning, it's brilliant. We can bring something to them that they could never imagine, and vice versa. So yeah, I think it's just having that open conversation, and also not. And it's a challenge in bigger companies. Fortunately, we're not a bigger company, but I've worked in bigger companies. If you can try and minimise that internal politics that often manifests in larger organisations where objectives start to become misaligned or trampling over each other, that's critical as well.
Yeah, I think transparency, I would say, in relationship, like being basically straightforward in terms of objective, not having hidden agenda and this kind of politics. It's really critical in any kind of partnership. And I also agree with you that basically the outcome of a partnership, when it's a really win-win situation in terms not only of the counterparts that are involved, but let's say the society actually, it's the best fuel that the company will be eager to collaborate more actually. So yeah, I think there's corporate cultures that are more fitable to collaboration, but also the size is critical. Like having a startup attitude, even when you grow your business, and having people empowered, probably is one of the things that is more critical to work this way.
It's interesting, you mentioned the internal politics, Richard, but also there's an external politics, right? So it's not very often we see competitors coming together to collaborate, but actually in the few times there have been, it's been very successful, right? So do you think there's, in future going forward, we might start to see people who have been competitors in relative spaces who kind of come together to create something that's bigger, and particularly to your point, Coco, for the human or the culture kind?
Yeah, I think that's Probably with AI, it's basically what's happening. You know, it's something that is out there, that it can be used, that it can be based on a technology that could be Creatively Commons open. So it's not the technology; it's the use that you're going to do with the technology that's going to make a positive impact or not. So yeah, I would say that's probably being able to adapt, to be resilient, basically give you the opportunity to engage relationship with eventually a company that was your competitor, but because we are always changing our business and with a real evolution. For example, as Teads, probably I would say that 2 years ago we were not a programmatic business, and nowadays 60% of our business is programmatic. So yeah, there's companies that were not my partners or competitor 2 years ago, and now they are, and maybe the one that they are today, in 2 years they won't be anymore. So it's a question of resilience and transforming the business.
And we talked, you mentioned there as well about technologies, and I think innovation is a very key role to play in collaborations and partnerships. Where do kind of all three of you look when it comes to innovation? What are the places you look to find innovation? Where do you go for inspiration? Where do you go to say, right, this is something that we feel is going to change things? Particularly Richard, going from one sector to another, you must have a whole head of ideas and excitement in there that you kind of want to get out. But how do you get that out? How do you go about getting that innovation out and into practice?
My flippant answer to your question was going to be, where do I go? Where do I go for innovation? It was going to be going for a run, actually, and that sounds kind of stupid. Actually, there is quite some interesting science now that when you go either do yoga, which I haven't got the patience for, unfortunately, or go meditate or mindfulness, or go for a run. If you let your brain kind of relax out of this busyness of the modern world, disparate thoughts and ideas and fragments of inspiration do start to coalesce. So, and actually, in all seriousness, I've actually had some of my best ideas when I've been running, where my brain has finally relaxed a bit. A more serious answer is, I think the more diverse your experience, the more diverse your people, your team, your inspiration, the more jigsaw puzzle pieces you can collect from different arenas around the world, the more likely you are to be creative. Because if you really distill what creativity is, a truly creative idea, I'm not sure entirely exists. It's really just you've pieced together some of those jigsaw piece puzzles in a way that no one else has done before. But they're all inspirations that already existed. Nearly every idea has really been the accumulation of knowledge and experience from other domains. So it follows, get as much wide experience as you can. Almost travel the world with no agenda at all and just absorb. And then you'll have a completely unique perspective, and that's back to the diversity of teams. If you've got a laser specialist, a fashion designer and a vet on your team, you know what, probably your competitor hasn't, and they will have some inspiration and some perspective that will be unique to you.
We have a very unique perspective, I suppose, on innovation at Guinness World Records, because our position in the world for the last 60 years, and that hasn't changed just because we're now diversified into the advertising world, has to reflect back at the world the very latest of what's happening, and perhaps the best that's what's happening. So the way that we approach innovation, often through our partners, whether it's Intel looking to fly 1,500 drones at the opening of the Winter Olympics, or whether it's Jaguar looking to do a barrel roll in a production car that's never been done before, our role is simply to work with and listen to those brands, and to be able to create something in the form of a record perhaps, or a campaign that reflects that. So while these guys are very much at the forefront of innovation, our role is to have our ears and eyes open to innovation all over the world, to attend things such as this, such as Cannes, but I mean cross-sector, cross-industry, to really reflect what the world is doing, and that's why it's always such a privilege to get together with guys who are pushing the envelope all the time.
I would add that most of the time, and this is the kind of situation that happens with clients, with counterparts. When we say the word innovation, most of the time we mix it with technology, with the use of a technology. But actually innovation, it's a thinking. It can be facing a situation and transforming it. So let's suppose if we look at the Uber tradition of offering water when you get into the car. that's user experience. Like cab, they were not used to offer water to people who are inside the car. That's not the platform, but for me it's innovation. It's a new way to basically create a user experience inside the Uber car. So that's one thing I think most of the time we mix the two concepts. The second thing that's my flag actually that I always raise in meetings. You often in advertising we get obsessed by a specific format. So I was talking about AR. So that's everyone think that AR is the end, but actually we should always remember that technology in advertising it's just an enabler. So if you are really connected to the strategy of the brand and you don't lose the objective, and by the way, you are using a specific technology that's going to be super relevant to enable people to understand the point of view of the brand or a specific service for a company, that makes sense. But if you are using that just because everyone is doing it, in terms of impact, in terms of people really engage with your brand and driving an impact on the company you're working with, it's not going to happen. Actually, you are just going to be doing what everyone else is doing in the marketplace. So, yeah.
And it's really interesting. Three of you talked about different platforms, different areas you look for inspiration. One of the, I suppose, if you like, collaborative parts is that, in particular in media, is the convergence of media with various different sectors, and I think technology is starting to enable that to happen in a far greater pace than we had anticipated. Perhaps would you agree with that? Is that something that you're seeing more and more of?
Yeah, totally. I mean, as a PR myself, the convergence of the marketing and PR industry has absolutely been enabled by technology, by social media, and there's a long way to go on that yet. I mean, a lot of what Coca's talking about, I would foresee eventually to become part of an integrated campaign that really is a necessity for all brands to really reach an audience in this day and age. And some of the stuff that Coca was talking about even off camera earlier about what Teads are doing, I mean it's really kind of revolutionary, really. But yeah, I mean the convergence of the industry is absolutely enabled by technology, and it's how everybody obviously is consuming media now. And the challenge for a PR is to first of all, for your agency side, grab a bit more of that budget, and secondly, just really tell stories through the mediums that you have available.
Yeah, I'd echo that. I mean, we're relatively new entrants into this whole arena, and it became quite obvious that part of the challenge is actually getting the technology to work and squaring that away. But I think there was an easy mistake to make to think that was 90% of the challenge, or even 100% of the challenge. Actually, at least 50% of the challenge is, once you've done it, how do you tell the world about it in a messaging format that inspires them and gives you back what you need, which is their engagement and their permission to go and do the next thing. And it's an ever-changing whack-a-mole type challenge. And it's fascinating, as I say. I've noticed even in the probably 24 months I've been in this world, the boundaries keep moving. I mean, there aren't really any boundaries anymore. Traditional participants keep drifting into each other's domains, and then a new technology comes along and changes it again. So, yeah, it seems a challenging industry, but it's fun. It's not boring.
No, that is for certain.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things you both touched on there was, and actually you as well, Coca, was about the brands and that engagement. And I suppose I want to ask the question, and Richard, very good for you because you've only been in the industry a couple of years. So, have you, in terms of education of brands and what you're trying to partner with them and collaborate with them, have there been any specific sectors, i.e. automotive, sports, retail, fashion, that have been much more receptive to what you're doing, and why do you think that is? And also, Coca, from your point, we still see that brands need education, right? And are there certain sectors of advertisers that are kind of, yes, we're very much up for collaborating, it's much easier, or are there some that you still think need a lot more education, as it were?
Yeah, traditionally I would say that there's a couple of verticals in industry that are more kind of to test new things but like automotive, for example, usually it's easier to test new technology with automotive clients. But actually what I think it's really fascinating right now is that even traditional companies, like 100 years business, they are open to have mistakes, actually, to learn from their mistakes, to test, to put on the market something that they are kind of afraid of, but they say, hey, let's be open about that, let's try it, and we're gonna learn in the process. So I think that's when you really want to be an innovator and you want to lead with innovation, you need to keep your mind open about that, because innovation, you won't know the KPIs, you will have no benchmark. Sometimes it's a dark room with no light and you're blind, actually. So you need to be open about this process. And about the previous question, sorry, because I wanted to add something about how technology is really revolutionizing advertising. Something that is really fascinating with technology is that we are combining two things that usually are totally antagonic. Is amazing scale, so you can reach basically all the human beings in the world in a really efficient way, but you can do that in a personalized way. So you can bring them an experience that based on maybe, I don't know, the time of the day, the weather, or whatever signals, you can bring them a content that will make sense for them at this moment of their journey, or of how they feel eventually. So that's really fascinating, the fact that we are colliding. Usually scale was mainstream, one commodity solution for one fits all, and now we've got the scale and the personalization. So it's fascinating.
As Coca says, like traditionally that's difficult to do on a big scale. That is difficult. So you end up making your content more generic, perhaps, or more palatable to the masses. But I mean, what we have available to us now, and a lot of what Teads are doing as well, does allow us to be infinitely more personal and personable to the people that we're trying to talk to, cross boundaries as well. It's fascinating. It's an exciting time. You picked a good time to join.
Definitely.
And I know we're pushed for time, because I know you've got some more meetings, but I suppose I'd like to finish up with, if you are starting out or looking at developing new partnerships now from this day forward, what are the key things you need, the key kind of 1, 2 or 3 things you need in your armory to make those partnerships successful, and not just successful, but to create longevity with those partnerships and not just a short-term burst, a longer-term burst?
Certainly from Guinness World Records perspective, longer-term partnerships, values for us are hugely important. We spend a number of chemistry meetings, if you like, with our potential partners, establishing whether at our heart, at our core of the two brands, there is something there that makes this not jarring and makes it a very seamless relationship that makes sense. After that, I guess it's there needs to be some sort of convergence in the direction that you're going, and something that you can offer each other that perhaps hasn't been offered to each other before, I think, to move things forward. But yeah, I mean, for a heritage brand like us, that's got a 64-year history to look after and we preside over for our time at GWR, those kind of shared values are so important for us. It may differ as we go down the panel, but it's just hugely important for us.
Yeah, I'd say the same. I mean, we describe ourselves as a pioneering aeronautical innovation company, so anybody we collaborate with has to have a degree of synergy with that aspirational element of our brand. And after that, it's back to my trading days. It's supply and demand. Clearly, we have to have something they want, and we have to be a good fit back to them. And we bring out of the box, I guess, and this seems to be validated by everything we've done in the last 14 months, but we bring out of the box a kind of very tangible, high-impact visual manifestation of innovation and endeavour. And if there's brands that want to access that and enjoy the ride with us, then that's what we offer, and there's many things we enjoy in return. So yes, it's about being a mutually beneficial long-term relationship.
Yeah, actually I completely agree with them. I would just add that for me there's 3 factors that are critical in a successful partnership. I think a common language, somehow semantic, grammar, like I was talking about an API, when you are ready to be plugged in with other companies and other people to collaborate. an API basically in the software industry, it's exactly, yeah, I'm ready to be integrated with totally new marketplace, you know. So I think it's a common language, I would say, so that you know, you, for example, if you want to engage with Teads, you're gonna exactly understand what are the output that I'm expecting from you, what are the input that I'm gonna be delivering, what are the deadlines, what is the process. So I would say language, let's say. The second thing is that nowadays, that doesn't make any sense to be planning something for a long time and then execute it maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 months later. Because the landscape, the reality, the real world is changing so fast that speed is critical. So a successful partnership, I would say that probably is a process, a way of working that there is constant feedback and the outcome happens fast. So speed for me is really critical. And obviously the relevancy, you know, like when you engage with a partner, you get well with him, it's good, but it needs to have a great impact on your business, it needs to be relevant, the outcome of this partnership. If not, okay, it's going to be a nice try, but it won't happen for a long time, actually.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. We had a round of applause from the boat next door. I think they thought we finished the question early, but thank you very much. A round of applause from me. Well done. Thanks for your contribution.
Thank you, Jeremy.